Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality and is about discovering your place in this great universe from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guests in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us here this evening. Tonight we are going to be talking about tarot cards. Many times we've spoken about them over the years, and there's different decks, there's different types, there's different, as we would say, messages that are held within. What is it all about? Are we looking for guidance? Are we perhaps now becoming a seeker, and we're looking for guidance? We are looking for, as we'd say, a signpost along the way, perhaps a few words, thoughts, or maybe ideas that can either validate what we are thinking, perhaps challenge what our beliefs are, or maybe still they are saying, perhaps gently, can we look this way? Are we looking for something that's a little bit different to the language that we've had over the past several decades? Now in the year 2025, we are speaking a different language. It's a spiritual language. It is a very much engaged in the earth, the world, the cosmos, the stars, the moon, nature, animals. We are really becoming an expansive person. Are you really on that path? Perhaps maybe you are just now starting out on it, as many of the listeners have been on it for several decades with me. Today we're going to be talking about a very specific deck of tarot cards. It's the Wise Earth Medicine Tarot. My guest today is Lalania Simone, and it's really a wonderful deck because it's very different. It's unique. There are different pictures of animals. There are numbers. It's definitely a traditional kind of tarot cards. However, those who are new to it, we say just pick them up, feel into them, put your hands on top of the box and say, is it calling to me? If it is, pull one card, any card, and just see where it takes you. It's truly about being able to say, how can you make the deck your own, and how can you find guidance and wisdom? Lalania, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so glad to have you to talk about these cards because many times people will say, but I really need some help. You know, I'm almost 70 and I distinctly remember when I grew up, everybody kind of gathered around the kitchen table almost every day from your ancestors because they all lived within, just a few miles of each other, and they kind of spoke about things that were going on. They asked for guidance and wisdom. They talked about the challenges, and there was always someone to, quote, bounce something off. Don't you think that's what we are seeking now in this decade?
Absolutely. There's so much chaos, really, in the reality that we all are sharing within our collective experience. And I feel like we are all reaching for that wisdom. And I feel like tarot cards and oracle cards, as well as other forms of divination and meditation and different, many different ways to tap into that and access that wisdom.
Yeah, I think it's like sort of getting feedback, don't you think? You pull a card and there's a word there and you're going, oh, okay, I didn't think of that. Sometimes when we are really stuck in a challenge or maybe something's really at us and our mind is going along like that, train a million miles a minute, down to an outcome that you really don't want to go to, and you're thinking, is there an alternative? Should I reflect on this? Is there perhaps a different message in that? That's the way I think of tarot cards, perhaps?
Yeah, I think there's so many different ways that you can work with them, and sometimes it's just seeing that image or hearing or reading a phrase that just really triggers an understanding for you and gives you that view that you were missing.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I live here in New Orleans. I've been here for decades, and tarot cards are not new to us, You kind of grow up with your own little package of them. And, it's just because it's always seeking into the magic and the mystical world. It's seeking a greater connection with the world around you. Here we are really engaged in the weather, when the storms come, when it's all of the earth is starting to blossom. And, I still have poinsettias on my patio that are growing wonderfully, and an orchid that was been a stick for over a year and a half, and now it has 3 flowers on it. So we really are very engaged in connecting with everything around us, the earth, the water. We can feel when it's a full moon and it starts to flood in certain areas with the tides. We are so ingrained in that. And when I go to a different area, I find there's others who are like, oh, I don't know. I don't pay much attention to it. I'm doing this, or I don't have time. And perhaps maybe I think that connection is what many are seeking. And I don't think that that connection is for everybody, because they're not there yet. They will get there. But there's many more people now who are saying, I'm starting to find this connection. How would they find a connection by connecting to the earth with these cards?
Well, these cards are very intentionally aligned with particular animals, insects, and plant and flower life. And because so many of us are distanced from the magic of the earth, be it because of our location in major cities, or just because our mindset is really locked onto all of these other concerns, this is a way to just tap in and connect with some of these beautiful life forms that have beautiful wisdom that they can share with us and help guide us in our day-to-day life.
I did a show, I think it was in the beginning of January. There was a series of shows, several of them, 3 or more, I forget. And we spoke about animal ethics. In the very beginning of the show, we talked about the concept of the animal kingdom. And I think so many people will say, oh, that's just animals as animals, using the word. Yet the animal kingdom includes humans. And they're going, no, it doesn't. I have to go look that up. And they're got on their phone, hey, Siri, or hey, Google, we need to find this out. Is that true? Because I think we've had such a disconnect from actually knowing our place in the world. And when we can understand that, we say, okay, so if animals and humans are all in the same kingdom, so to speak, what sets us apart is our consciousness, or what we believe is our consciousness and our rational mind. We have no clue that the birds or other animals may have a sense of their own consciousness, because we can't connect. We can't, in other words, communicate rationally with them using the human mind. So I think sometimes when we think about the animal kingdom, we say, what are they communicating to me? Or how am I connecting with them? The only way we're truly connecting with them is energy, perhaps.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And I do agree that we have this idea that connecting with nature means that we have to go somewhere other than where we are, especially when we are living in cities, instead of realizing that we are nature itself, and that we can go within for that.
Yesterday I was walking outside. I actually missed a show that I was supposed to be speaking to a guest, because I was outside. And she says, well, we'll have to reschedule. I said, no, we'll do it now. I was outside grounding because it was the last day that I'll be able to put my feet on the ground, that it's cool, that the ground is cool, because starting today will be, 90 and over again. And, and it doesn't have a chance to cool down at night, because nighttime temperatures will be high 70s and in the 80s. So I went outside and I was walking around, and I have tons of trees around me. I mean, I'm inundated with magnolia trees. I mean, there's probably 100 of them within a half a mile. But I'm going outside and all of the dragonflies, it was almost as if I was just in some kind of terrarium, and there were hundreds of dragonflies all day yesterday. And I'm going, isn't this awesome? And they were landing around by me, and they wanted to take a picture. They were on the sun. They kind of just like stood there and just waited for me, to see them. And they weren't flying off. Sometimes you walk past them, they fly off. They were pretty much staying there. So I think that each type of animal, as we notice it, what does it bring to your mind? I mean, for dragonflies, for me, it promotes lightness. I think of lightness, because they are so very light. They're almost like tissue paper. And when we think of lightness, we say, can I delight in this moment? And I think that's what I see. Perhaps your cards are guidance like that?
Yes, actually, Dragonfly is one of the cards, and it is the card for temperance, which is harmony. And what I have here is that the dragonfly reminds you that you have access to the spiritual realm while existing in the material realm. So it's one of those magical creatures that kind of holds the space between the material and the spiritual.
Yeah, because, it was funny. I think that I posted a picture probably about 10 years ago. I went outside and I was just looking around, taking it all in. And a dragonfly had come to my foot, and it just had passed on then. It transformed on my foot. And that was a time when I was working with a lot of patients at end of life. And I will say, you're just showing me how much of ease this is. And I think, that's something I've always brought, a message, how I could take the picture of the animal, how it's transformed its message, and how it fit into my life. Is that how we use a tarot card?
That's a beautiful story, and very impactful to think that it sat with you and then went on to its next life, and to be able to take the message from it that could be done with such ease. Truly, truly beautiful. Yes, I think that there's so many different ways that we can receive, the wisdom of the earth, and the cards have a way of bringing that forth through some of the traditional, more indigenous associations with those particular plants and animals, etc. But also, as with the tarot in general, we also may have our own meanings that are attached to either the card meanings or our experience with these animals and insects that may have a more personal insight for us. And so I feel like we can use the cards in that way, and we can also use the world itself as our oracle. And when we can pay attention, we can receive messages from the earth in all types of different ways throughout the day.
I think also, too, though, that your cards are definitely for those who are very much enmeshed in doing tarot readings. You have descriptions in the book, how to do a spread. You share that, all of the descriptions on the cards, and I think that's very important. For those who have not used a deck before, I've always shared the idea is that to take the cards, deeply shuffle them, kind of lay them out, and just see what card speaks to you. Have you ever asked people to be able to start with a card that way?
Generally the way that I feel about working with the cards is that it's so different for each person. These cards I made specifically because tarot has such a deep foundation, and it is more of a kind of a complex system, I intentionally created these cards to almost present like oracle cards. And the difference between tarot and oracle is that oracle can really just be whatever the artist creates, and it doesn't necessarily have a system that is behind it. And so these cards have keywords on each one. So just by picking a single card, you're going to get some understanding. And then there's actually medicine that if you read the meaning of each card, it's going to have some more deeper insights outside of just the traditional tarot card meaning. And so I feel like it's so different for each person, but with these cards, you literally can just pick a single card and get a message. And it's right there, right in front of you, and not hard to decipher.
And also, too, what I liked about the cards is that they were not in your face. You know, I've seen tarot cards before. There's so many embedded messages in them. It's kind of like they threw the kitchen sink at it, you know, a number, a word, a color, a symbol, this, that, or the other. But yours are very much gentle, they are kind, and they have loving colors. That's what I picked out of it. And you know, you have the description on the bottom as you shared, but the pictures are very, they're very, as I would say, mellow. They aren't pushy. You know, sometimes the pictures are very much, we're going to take you this way. These cards really allow you to say, where would you like to go? In other words, these cards are more of an invitation rather than a dogmatic direction, perhaps?
I love that. It's a beautiful description. Thank you.
Yeah, they really feel like that. Also, too, I think that the pictures, you know, I'm looking at the 1-3 of Earth. It says collaboration, support, reward, and it has a fox on there. And what I liked about it is that it was a gentle picture of a fox. And, you know, it's so interesting to see that. Because sometimes you think of foxes as, they are either sly, so you'll see them like on the slide, kind of speak, or you would see them kind of being perpetrators. And this doesn't show that at all, perhaps?
Yes. I think sometimes animals get pigeonholed in certain places. And and I do have a few that are kind of your maybe more expected animals with the alignments, but the fox, I was excited to find this beautiful picture of this gentle fox and think about it more in the realm of being in a supportive and collaborative creature rather than just the sly, tricky fox.
Yeah, it's really kind of neat. You know, I have the deck here, and I keep moving it around and pulling and moving and pulling, and I keep coming up with the same card. Wise Earth, completion, integration, and wholeness. Can you share a little bit about that card?
Yes, well, you know, it's interesting. There's a couple different things. One that's interesting is when you get the same card over and over, we call that a stalker card. So that's a card that is making itself known to you because there really is a message that you're not supposed to miss. The Wise Earth in the traditional tarot would have been the World card. And this is a card about completion, really having come to the end of some sort of cycle in your life. And I'll read to you the medicine of this card. It says, many believe the earth to be a generous and selfless feminine entity who acts as the mother of humanity for all life upon her. When this card arrives in your life, you're being surrounded with beautiful blessings. You've come a long way to get to this moment. Acknowledge what you have been through and all you have accomplished, no matter what this moment looks like. You are being honored by the Great Mother. Accept this blessing with gratitude and love.
You know, it's so interesting to be able to have that card, and here's why. With your reading, your description, your picture, and the words, is because I'm almost 70 now, and I know that I'm in my sunset time. And I've even started to work and share about how to consciously exit the world. And it's so important, I think, sometimes as souls and spirits to be able to think about it and say, am I going to leave the place that I have been in better shape than I've actually, you know, come into it or have engaged in it or what? So in other words, can we consciously exit the world as fairies, as spirits, as completed in our human trials and say that we're done with the earth and we are now, you know, going to be the heavenly spirits and probably not come back? So I think that truly for me is I know that I've completed and I won't be coming back. I know that I'm going to consciously exit, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I've already done a lot of the housework, so to speak, to be able to see that, reframe the way I believe about death, about transition, about transformation over the decades. And it is just so, I almost can't find a word for it. It just feels, it feels right. It feels harmonizing. It feels timely. And it truly feels just in perfection of its own. So I think the card is absolutely perfect. You see how I've gone from what you've shared, what the card said, and where I am in my life. And that's how people can transition through the message, correct?
Absolutely. And what a beautiful way to look at this aspect and cycle and place in your life right now. And it feels very full of ease and comfort, and I just want to honor that in you and being able to be in this place consciously and making your way towards the next journey with such attention and light.
There's so many people, we've gotten stuck in the human dogma of our sunset years should be this. I'm either going to run out and be able to fix myself so I'll be good and do the things I want to do, grab up my bucket list, or they have a different view and it's, oh, how terrible this is. And I think if we look at our lifetime as just such a gift, might we have a different way of looking at the world? And I think tarot cards do that. They literally give you, as I call, flip the coin. You see, now, if someone else had looked at that card and they heard the story, they would say, oh, do you mean I'm going to die and it's going to be terrible, blah, blah, blah. And it so is not, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that the beautiful thing about tarot cards is that the message the same person can receive, 20 people can receive the same card, and each one will see something different according to their life and their experiences and what it could mean to them. And it could be the image itself. It could be a few words that they glean from the interpretation. There's associations deep in our subconscious that could be triggering things, sounds, scents. That's what makes them so magical, is that each interpretation would be true for that different person, even though it might be different for each one.
What about the card that says Five of Earth, without, lost, excluded, and it has a raccoon? Can you share a little bit about that card?
Yeah, so that card in the traditional tarot would be the Five of Pentacles. And it's often portrayed with two people who are destitute and they're kind of walking outside in the weather, and it's really about a time when maybe things aren't going your way and you feel like maybe even somewhat in despair around losing a job, or feeling like there's just not enough, or maybe there was a breakup, or you've been excluded from something in your life. And so this card does have some hope in it. I'll read the medicine for you. The raccoon is a mischievous animal that can get itself into trouble, but it always figures out how to get itself out. The message of the raccoon is that you have the resources that you need within you to transform your situation. It's okay to take off your mask and to be vulnerable with yourself and others so that you can discover your potential to overcome challenges. There is a benefit for you in this situation. In this particular card in the traditional tarot, even though these people are looking like kind of like they're in a bad situation, right behind them is a glowing stained glass window, and they just don't see it. They're not looking at it. And so essentially what's saying is there's support for you right there if you can just open up your eyes and open up your heart and realize that maybe you have to ask for help.
Yeah. Also, too, I think that as you shared about hope, sometimes people will just like to hear, yes, I do feel lost. And all they need is that validation that someone, something, somewhere was able to connect with them. You know, sometimes they have that inner thing, I don't know what it is. It's sort of like an angst that they can't put the word to it. And when you pull a card and you say, yes, I am lost. And it's like, oh, it almost feels like the monkey is off of your back. Don't you think?
It's like, thank you for seeing me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think that's important because I've always shared, you know, what are the three things we need in this world is to be seen, to be heard, to be cared, and to be loved. Well, there's four. And those are truly what humans are asking for. It's just, man, we've created some kind of chaos and orchestra to be able to find that, don't you think?
Yes, we have.
Yeah, I mean, almost, you know, you're going, well, okay then. How about the card, the Hermit? It's meditation, retreat, and self-reflection. And is that a moose that's on the picture?
That is a moose. So the moose has
Can you tell they're not local to me? I don't know what they look like.
Yes. And the moose is kind of a solitary creature.
Mm-hmm.
So it's perfect for the hermit, and the hermit is always been a card of self-reflection and taking your time away from the world to meditate and to do some self-care and to work on your spiritual growth. And so for the medicine for the moose, it says the moose is a sovereign being that enjoys solitude. It makes its own rules and goes its own way. Its antlers act as antenna, making the moose super sensitive to its environment. Are you overwhelmed with what's happening around you? The moose is guiding you to look at your life and make some time to care for your own needs. I
think so many times people will say, but I'm doing self-care. I'm going to the spa. I'm going out to eat. And they all this, it's this doing stuff. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of times the self-care turns into what am I doing for me, when sometimes the doing is what you really need to let go of, perhaps?
Yes, I agree with that so much. Stillness is very hard for us here.
It's really great for me. My girlfriend had called me the other day, and she says, what are you doing? I said, I'm sitting here watching the trees. And she says, what do you do for the rest of the day? I said, I'm going to sit here and watch the trees. She says, okay, let me know tomorrow. You know, and because it was just a windy day, and I have a cypress tree here in my yard also, too, and I watched the squirrels as they used to fly from the telephone pole to the tree. So I was watching the trees. The squirrels kept flying back and forth. But I think it's about being able to say, that's a time that your soul can just recharge. You know, we don't have to go out and buy something or do something or get something to keep putting into ourselves. Maybe we just need to shut down what's spinning inside of us, perhaps?
Yeah, and I think there's also that reciprocal energy that is shared with us when from our environment, from the earth herself, when we can be still and be a witness and really receive some of those beautiful witnessings and the medicine that exists just in the world around us all the time.
You know, it's interesting, too. I have a patio and there's a little fence there. And one day I looked out and I said, oh, my gosh, what is that? I mean, it's only 5 feet to the fence. And I looked out and it was this huge owl. And the owl just sat there. And I didn't move around because I wanted to just watch it and observe it. And it came back for probably about a period of 2 to 3 weeks, and then it hasn't been back since. And then another time there was a hawk that sat there for probably about 2 or 3 weeks, and then that went away. So I think there are many times when nature will come to visit you, maybe just for you to say, what is that? And to be in awe of it versus to run out and find out, do I have to know what it's doing? Why am I here? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. And all this panic of the story, we want to allow it to create its own story versus finding the story. Maybe?
Yes, that feels like such a blessing to me to see these majestic creatures that have so much myth and story connected to them and for them to come and really be in your presence, that feels like alignment to me. That feels like your energy magnetized them. There was something about your space, your yard, your frequency that drew them to you, and that they were sharing themselves with you for a time.
I think it was about 2 weeks ago. There were two lizards, geckos, on the patio. One was eating the other one's head. It was literally fighting. And I'm going, okay, the world is not always like pushing up daisies, and maybe you guys are just showing me you're irritated today. And I think that's also, too, to notice that out in the nature world, because there's a lot of things that with survival, the life cycles, the way things show up for each other, we always like to say, well, I want to see the good things about a shark. I don't want to see how a shark might eat fish, or I don't want to see how a shark might harm humans. We don't want to see the bad part. We always want to see the good part. And is that, in a way, creating your own self story that you want to be able to believe, versus saying, but I have so much more to tell you, and the animals really want to show you more, perhaps?
Mm-hmm. I think we are definitely trained in our society to do our best to not have to experience the discomfort that happens here in this world. And it's actually important to embrace all aspects of our experience, because there's wisdom in all of it. And often, if we can move through the things that maybe we don't want to see and allow ourselves to just go ahead and feel through those parts of ourselves, we can have access to even more wisdom. And so I think it's just part of being here in this dimension that we call Earth. In order to have this physical experience, we also have to have these polarized aspects of life. And when we can accept it and realize every single aspect that we can experience here is another reflection of Creator, then we can harmonize with everything, no matter what it looks like.
You know, being in healthcare for over 5 decades, I've witnessed everything about the human body. And I always liken it to, I say, this is a human body. It's a vehicle. It's a housing for your soul and your spirit. But it also, too, is its own, as I call it, universe within. And so many times people will say, but I don't want to see that part of it, especially end of life or getting older or disease or dysfunction. We always want to try to erase it. I think we try to erase all of the negativity and the hardships in the outside world, but then we get stuck with the mental, the mind, the consciousness, the spirit or the soul that's talking to you inside of your head, so to speak. And we say, I don't want that either, but it's okay because I can linger here longer because others can't see it per se. So there's a lot of work that we need to work within our spiritual and our mental health. We don't even realize that we're hiding 90% of it, perhaps.
Yes, I agree. There's so much of ourselves that, I think that even if you are working with that aspect of yourself and being in acceptance and integration of all of these shadow aspects of ourselves, then we're actually doing the biggest spiritual work we can do while we're here. But so many of us even just deny that we have those places within us. And, it's often because there's shame and guilt associated with, or pain associated with those things. And so we do our best to pretend they don't exist, but they never go away. They're part of us, and when we can take the time to explore them and maybe have some curiosity, they stop actually impacting us in the same way, and they just become part of our wisdom instead of being part of ourselves that we disown.
Yeah, I think that sometimes we want to be very careful because it isn't our identity. A lot of times people will say, who are you? And the answer is, I'm just a soul and a spirit. And when you're asking me who I am, are you asking me the filter and the experiences that I've been through? Because that's what you're asking. We don't even have that connection. we're pretty much stuck in it. I know for myself, I came up with the word shame probably a few years ago. A definite journey, probably for about 10 years, with acupuncture points, with all kinds of different things, are something that can give you inspiration. And it may be taking you on a different journey, and it may or may not be the word you were seeking, but it may be the word that will take you perhaps to dance with another story or, something to say, oh gosh, just as I shared in the beginning, oh gosh, I never thought of that. Perhaps I will look at that. And then you forget what's bothering you, what may have been the overriding theme of your day, so to speak, or maybe your pain or suffering. And it might just be something that will open up another door to be able to let some fresh air into your thoughts. Isn't that the goal?
I love that. I think that's so beautifully put. Thank you for expressing it that way, because yes, opening up the door and a fresh breeze of some new insight can sometimes be exactly what we need.
Just as you look at the pictures, you will say, oh, I've seen that animal before. Oh, just as I shared, with the dragonflies outside, the bee on the door, the cicadas outside, when they start shedding their shells. And it's just everywhere. And it just feels, I guess because I'm so connected, it just really feels something in my being. Perhaps?
I love that. Yeah, I feel like this is a way for maybe people who don't have as much access to the beauty of the world in their backyard can still tap in and connect with it through this deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Lalania, sorry, tell me again.
Lalania.
Lalania, sorry. Well, Lalania, it was such a pleasure to have you with us. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work?
Absolutely. My website is cosmicseedstudio.com. I have several decks actually on the market right now through Red Wheel Wiser, and the Wise Earth Medicine Tarot is my third divination product, divination deck. So you can also find me on Instagram at the Cosmic Seed.
Very good. Well, Lalania, it is such a pleasure to have you with us here today. I hope others are finding a little bit of inspiration and they'll check out the cards. And I think it's just such a good, engaging conversation today. So we thank you for joining us.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure.
If you'd like to find out more information about Lalania Simone, again, the cards are Wise Earth Medicine Tarot. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website for more information to find out about her services and her other products. And it's all about being able to say whatever is going on inside of you, this is just kind of like a kind friend. It's something that's sitting on the shelf and that says, perhaps maybe we will look at this. Wouldn't this be something else? What if? Or maybe just flip the coin. And wouldn't that be wonderful to be able to say, I can just take my mind out of where I am and be able to find something else to delight in the day. Just a gentle reminder. It's like opening a window, a comforting hand, or perhaps a friend. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette Gallagher. Until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit drjeanettegallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.